Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicast and in partnership with Vertical Valor Magazine. In this two-part series, Jack Schonely and I are joined by Johnny Gray III and David Baumann, two remarkable crew chiefs from LA County Fire Department's air operations.
I truly feel like athletics, it parallels the fire service so much. You know, the cliche word is teamwork, but it truly takes a special person to do what we are doing now in the helicopter. Athletics taught me a lot. It taught me commitment, taught me dedication, taught me perseverance. It taught me when you fail, you got to keep going. It taught me to build up your teammates, build up others. Being part of a professional team, we were in the community a lot. You know, in college, we had Tiger Cub camps all the time. So we were in the community all the time. So when I do go talk and talk to athletes, this literally is the next best thing, if not better.
Johnny and David take us on a compelling journey from their athletic backgrounds to their vital role in emergency services, highlighting the importance of teamwork, leadership, and mental resilience. Through personal stories, they share lessons from overcoming failure, navigating high-stakes situations, and the critical impact of mentorship and community involvement. Whether it's tackling devastating wildfires, honoring fallen heroes, or working alongside family, their experiences shed light on the enduring spirit of dedication and service that drives them. Thank you to our sponsors, Metro Aviation, CNC Technologies, and Precision Aviation Group.
Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. The Hangar Z Podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Stand by here. Looks like they're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, threw the shotgun, threw something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
Hey, welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast. I'm your host, John Gray. I have a really cool conversation lined up for today. A conversation with somebody who has a very striking resemblance to me. Johnny Gray, the third. How you doing, sir?
Doing excellent, sir. Pleasure to be here.
You know, this kind of goes back to last fire season. Actually, it wasn't last fire season. It was January.
Yeah.
January seems like a lifetime ago at this point, but LA was under pretty severe red flag fire warnings as a result of a Santa Ana wind event that we had. And we had Mike Sagely on the podcast. And after that recording was complete, released it, and Johnny Gray reached out and we started chatting. And I said, you know what? It'd be really cool to have you on the podcast. And then David joined us as well. So we've had the perspective of a pilot through Mike, through LA County and the missions you guys do. I want to talk about the fire and your guys' response to that again. But we haven't had the perspective of the crew chiefs and the work you guys are doing, because that is the ultimate job. We're flying so that you guys can do what you do in the back most of the time. So I'm excited to talk about your guys' role, not only in the fire, but just in the day-to-day missions that you guys complete. To talk about the careers that you guys have led. You guys have both very impressive careers and backgrounds. Each one of you could probably take up a 2-hour segment on the Hangar Z Podcast by itself. So it's going to be an action-packed and jammed 2-hour segment here covering your guys' careers and all the things you've done in a 2-hour segment. So excited to go through that. And, of course, I can't forget Commander's with us. Jack Schonely, how you doing, sir?
Good, John. I'm going to hold you accountable today. No favoritism to Johnny. Name, it's just a name. David's here too. Don't forget.
I just want to know who spelled it right.
Oh, that's great. Welcome to David and Johnny. It's really good to have you guys.
Thanks.
Like John
Glad
said,
to be here.
John and I both, we kind of have a man crush on Mike Sagely. We admit that, right, John? We admit that. I got no problem with that. We love Mike.
He has a man crush on himself, so don't feel like you're the only one.
Yeah, he doesn't have a man crush on Sagely.
Well, we sure do, and Mike's been really good with his time to us, and we've had him on 3 times now, and the one in January was very impactful, and we are really excited to talk to both of you about that. January was a very unique month for everybody in SoCal, but certainly for the two of you. So thanks again for joining us.
Yeah. And what's really cool about you guys is, just like in law enforcement for the TFOs, you guys spend a career essentially in the field before going to air ops, and you take all that experience that you garnered in the field, and then you apply that in a different way, but in a more impactful way, I'd say. So a lot of the calls that you guys are running, the missions you guys are a part of are very critical, so it'll be cool to unpack your guys' careers again, leading up to air ops, and then what you guys do in air ops. I think everyone in the world at this point understands the role that LA County Fire plays in fire suppression in Southern California. So first off, thank you guys for what you do for the communities, not just at work, but off duty as well. You guys are both very active off duty in a capacity that's inspiring in the next generation of public safety folks, whether it's on the fire side or the aviation side. And then you're both very active in the community as a whole in general. So thank you guys for that. That's really cool. I think that's huge.
Pleasure.
Good to give back where we can.
Yeah, for sure. If we could just start, maybe Johnny, I'm going to show a little favoritism to you.
Here we go.
Yeah, it started already, Johnny. That's all right. You got a good name.
Speaking of resemblance, he kind of looks like the stormtrooper from Star Wars, doesn't he? Just thought I'd bring that out.
A little bit.
Shots fired already. Well, Johnny, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the fire service and then ultimately into the aviation program.
Yeah, well, as you already said, I'm Johnny Gray III. My father is Johnny Gray Jr. He was a 4-time Olympian, still holds the world record in the 600 meters, had the American record for about 38 years, I believe, before it got broken a couple times. And I grew up in an athletic family. My play uncles all were professional track athletes. So I actually steered from track and went straight to basketball. I only did 1 year of track in high school, but I grew up in Inglewood, California, and then moved to Agora Hills, 2 completely different dynamics. So going from Inglewood to Agora was a culture shock.
Yeah.
But, for the better, I believe. And played basketball at Agora High, went to Moore Park Junior College for a couple years. I didn't get my D1 scholarship out of high school, so I ended up getting that from University of Pacific after doing my 2-year stint at Moore Park. I had a great career and great time there, went to the NCAA tournament, a couple years there. We were ranked as high as 12 in the nation, busted some brackets during the NCAA tournament with some wins, and then went to try it out for the NBA. Obviously, that didn't work out too well because I'm on Hangar Z Podcast. so I'm not talking anything NBA right now.
Well, Johnny, what are you saying? I mean, we've got Magic Johnson lined up for next week's recording. I mean,
hey, can I be a special guest for that?
You can.
I tried out for the Warriors a couple times, Sacramento Kings a couple times. Had some great workouts to the point where I literally came home, landed from a workout, and they called me back, say, "Hey, can you come back?" And I literally hopped right back on the plane and did another workout. That kind of gave me the confidence to believe I may get drafted in the second round. That didn't happen. So my agent and I agreed that I would go overseas. So I went to Germany for a season, and then I went to Hungary, then I went to Africa, then I went to Estonia.
Wow.
So I played in all those countries, had my oldest son, my last year and a half, 2 years of playing, and then had to make a grown-up decision, so to speak, and decided that I needed a real job. And I randomly fell into the fire service. No one in my family is fire. I knew nothing about fire. I just knew I wanted to, number one, have my own schedule, have my own time, and give back to others and stay active. That's what I wanted to do. So then, I ended up meeting Brent Burton, who was the past president of the LA County Centurions. Randomly, he was like, "Oh, LA County's hiring." So me being a cocky athlete that I was at the time, I just took the test and I just went through the process. I'm one of those outliers where I took one test one time and I got the job.
That's cool.
And then fast forward to where I am now. I did 7 years in the field, so I didn't have a full career in the field like Dave did, but I had enough experience and I was taking the engineer's exam and the captain's test during that time, and I got a preferential, which means you can go anywhere you want in county. The coveted golden ticket, right? So I knew everyone loved air ops. That's like the one spot that everyone would love to go to. So I put it on my bid sheet, and I ended up getting it last minute, took my name off the engineer's testing exam and didn't continue with the captain's exam. And I love it. It's the best decision I've ever made. It's the best career that I could have asked for. And my family loves it. I'm a father of 4 and a husband to 1. And yeah, it's my childhood sweetheart. I've known my wife my whole entire life.
Oh, that's cool.
We saw, actually, funny story, not to take over, but we saw The Little Mermaid together when it first came out. That's how I've known her.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah. So now I'm here, and that's the Cliff Note version of it.
That's cool. Think through what you accomplished athletically. There's a very, very small percentage of folks that get to do a fraction of what you did. But kudos to you to have the discipline and work ethic to get through all the steps that you went through. And, I think of a young man in the position that you were in, traveling internationally and getting kind of an international perspective that you were able to later apply to your life and your career. That must have been a golden education. Can you talk about that a little bit and kind of some of the perspective that it offered you?
Oh, yeah. I truly feel like athletics, it parallels the fire service so much. The cliche word is teamwork, but it truly takes a special person to do what we are doing now in the helicopter. Athletics taught me a lot. It taught me commitment, taught me dedication, taught me perseverance. It taught me when you fail, you got to keep going. It taught me to build up your teammates, build up others. And being a part of a professional team, we were in the community a lot. In college, we had Tiger Cub camps all the time. So we were in the community all the time. So when I do go talk and talk to athletes, this literally is the next best thing, if not better. So for me, learning from my father, obviously seeing his dedication, his work ethic, working out 2-3 times a day in Santa Monica, running San Vicente, and then, traveling and then sacrificing, it came easy to me. If someone wants to be great, you're going to have to do extraordinary things. You can't be ordinary, obviously. And that's what I preach to my kids now. My kids are all track athletes, track stars now. And if they want to take it to that next level, you have to make sacrifices. Yeah. And in this fire career, you might have to, get rid of some of your friends that might be anchoring you down as you get to your goal. And sports taught me all of that, So if I have a turnover or 2 or 3, I shake that off. If in the fire academy, I obviously knew absolutely nothing, but I just got back from playing overseas and playing in college, being the point guard, team captain. So my playbook that I had to learn was like this big. I had to know every single person's position, plus my own, plus the opponent's plays and positions. So if I can learn the fire playbook, which is this big in the fire academy, it came easy to me. As the reps kept coming to me, I started learning. Obviously, the first few reps, I was terrible. I didn't know anything about what a fire hose was, a blood pressure, female and male and I knew nothing. And my classmates were making fun of me and thought that I would fail. But again, I was a cocky athlete at that time. Failure's not even an option.
Sometimes that's the best.
So sometimes, yeah, being naive actually helped me out, I believe, because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yep.
Yeah. No bad habits. No bad habits, no bad perceptions. You're coming in a clean slate. Yeah. There's a plus to that.
I think being an athlete in a lot of ways actually teaches you how to deal with failure. Through loss that you experience as an athlete, through games, you've learned to pick things up and you apply that later in your career. And through the podcast, we've talked about the lessons that are learned through athletics. A lot of that's leadership based. As a leader, you learn how to be a leader on the athletic field a lot. And you pick up a lot of the leadership traits that you like and don't like from the coaches that you had over the years. So I think there's so many great things that come from athletics. I think it's huge for kids. I think it's great for kids to be a part of multiple sports to learn different life lessons from each thing. But Jack, you had a college career as well, playing soccer. Can you talk about how that impacted you and some of your leadership perspectives that you gained as a result of that?
Well, I haven't thought about that in a while, of the relationship. I think about the time of playing all the time, because that was a great time period. I think, Johnny, you'd agree. That 4 years of playing in college, that's like a vacation. I mean, it's like vacation all the time, because you're doing something you love, and it takes up a lot of your time and effort. But I look back and I just talked to my college coach in the past 2 months. I mean, this is from 78 to 82. Okay. And Coach Hill, and he is one of the people that impacted my life in such a huge way. We talked about it with Clint Pulver when we had him on, about leaders and how we have mentors, and coaches become a big part of that. So I did not like the way Coach Hill coached when I was a freshman. I wasn't happy. And then I realized he is much smarter about this whole thing than all of us. And as I matured, I realized he was gold. And I learned to love him. And I have such respect for him, more than I can talk about. And it does carry over, because eventually you become a trainer and a leader, and we're all leaders no matter what our rank is. And I look back a lot of that experience in college soccer and go, I use that again and again and again, just like Johnny just talked about.
Oh, for sure. And I think to go back to what John was saying, failure, when you fail in front of thousands and thousands of people, and you're on CBS prime time, knowing that millions of people are watching you, it can't get any more anxious than that moment. So if you can overcome that fear and overcome that turnover or air ball, or I never got my ankles broken or dunked on, so I can't say that. But if you can overcome that, in my eyes, failure really is just part of growth. That's all that is.
Johnny, I made mistakes, big mistakes, in front of dozens of people. Dozens were in the crowd watching me make those mistakes. So I can relate to your primetime CBS example completely. I can really relate to that. No, I can't imagine it. Okay. That's amazing. The pressure that adds to an athlete is quite unique. That most athletes, again, in the big picture, most athletes never experience that pressure. They experience just the pressure of playing their whatever game it is. But now you add to it a television audience and a live full arena in what everybody's talking about, March Madness and NCAA, and man, that's pressure.
And Jack, I actually can't lie. I consciously thought about Las Vegas at the pool, my game's on, everyone's watching and betting on it. I consciously thought about that during warm-ups. And then
of course,
but I'm like, oh God, this is crazy.
That's great.
How much did you have wagered on the game?
Zero.
That's right.
No,
as far as anyone knows.
No NIL during that time.
I think most people don't even consider what you just brought up. They think about athletics and the professional athletes and the life that surrounds that. I don't think many people think about the mental fortitude that it takes for someone to fail in front of an audience like you just described. What does that look like after a big game and something like that taking place, and how do you pick yourself up? And then ultimately, how does that prepare you for life?
Thank you to our sponsor, CNC Technologies. CNC Technologies, serving law enforcement, government, and military markets with tailored mission solutions, system training, and live 24/7 support with CNC.live platform. Explore more at cnctechnologies.com.
Yeah, that's a great question. Being a leader on a team, or, one of the co-captains on the team, you have to show your teammates and pick them up so they feed off of your energy. So if we're down and out, or you show emotion that, I turned the ball over, it leads to your teammates feeling that same energy. So it was crucial for me to consciously and mentally prepare myself that I have to be that leader and show that when I make a mistake, clap it up. It's okay. When they make a mistake, clap it up. It's okay. Move on to the next play. After a tough loss, which I had my senior year, I still haven't watched the game yet. That was tough. You're in the locker room, you're crying with your teammates. You were this close to, being that Cinderella story. And all you can do is try to bring each other up and remind everyone that, as well as yourself, that you took it as far as you could. You did excellent. All the hard work ended up paying off. But the thing that really hurt the most was you won't be playing with those teammates anymore.
Yeah.
Some of those guys, their level stopped right there. So that was the toughest part for me, was knowing that my ride with those guys and those coaches, like Jack was saying, is over. That ride is completely done. That chapter is now shut. That is the hardest part. However, when you know that you failed, it gives you that extra incentive to get back in the gym, get some more shots up, get bigger, get faster, get stronger, because now you can take it to that next level and prove to yourself that you can do better or be better, or add value to your next team that can now maybe change that outcome. Maybe now you do win that championship, or you do, get that special bonus, and it let me know that your individual accolades mean nothing. I've gotten MVPs and dunk contests and all this stuff, but it means absolutely nothing, because the worst thing was losing as a team, because we fought, we bled, we sweated together. Just to have it culminate in failure sucks. Yeah. But the mental fortitude that it took for us to get over it, for me to move on, to get back in the gym, it helped me get to where I am today. And my 4-year professional European career, it helped.
Johnny, how often, I'm very curious about this, how often did your father talk to you about the mental part? You're talking about two different sports here. It doesn't matter. Athletics is athletics when it comes to the mental part. How often did your dad talk to you about that mental fortitude and bouncing back and staying mentally strong and on that topic?
That's a great question. So looking back, my dad actually, what he would tell me was, that play's over, move on. But I visually saw the mental fortitude. Granted, in 1980, I wasn't alive, but the America boycotted the Olympics. 1984, my dad made it to the Olympics, and he came in 7th place. 1988, he made the Olympics in Seoul, came in 5th place. 1992, he was in the lead all the way until the 100-meter mark, where he got tripped, and we thought he was taking gold medal, and then he got bronze, got 3rd. Still a great place. First American to get a medal in 800, and I want to say since the 60s. Wow. So then now, here I am, a teenager, thinking, okay, 1996, it's in America, 7th, 5th, 3rd, here comes 1st, and he doesn't get 1st place. He doesn't even medal. And then he tries out for the 2000 Olympics to try to become the first to make 5 Olympic teams, didn't even make it. So I visually saw the mental fortitude that my dad had to go through. He didn't quit. You know what he did? He got back on that track and on that road and kept going.
That's amazing.
So for me to see that is more than words. My dad will always say, move on to the next play, always, though. He never actually, I can't remember a conversation of him actually talking about the mental fortitude and mental capacity that it takes to get over that. But I saw it in him. I saw it every single day.
You sure did.
And that is, he's America's best. The expectation on him was ridiculous. The first American to bring home gold was supposed to be Johnny Gray, So for me to see that, my little athletic career is nothing in comparison to his. So I learned through visual and audio through him seeing it. And then my dad just pushed me to be better, to the point that he built a basketball court in his master bedroom. So that's another story.
That's cool. What a great example.
And it kind of highlights the philosophy that more is caught than taught, right? Like you're as a kid, you're looking to your parents, and as a subordinate or as an employee, you're looking to your leadership, right? You're moving off their actions and inactions. So I think the correlations again are pretty striking when it comes to athletics and regular career stuff when it comes to public safety. Yeah. One last point I'll touch on is, the bonds of adversity are forged through difficult times, and that's the bonds that we've created in public safety are hard to replicate anywhere. The things that we've done together, the battles we've fought together, no one understands except the folks that have been there and done that together. And that brotherhood is really hard, or sisterhood is hard to replicate for that exact reason. And I think athletics, you see that, and you see it in public safety.
It's time for your Heli Life giveaway buzzword. Listen up and remember this word because you'll need it to enter for a chance to win exclusive Heli Life gear. Ready? This episode's buzzword is auto-rotation. Visit contest.verticalhelicasts.com to enter the buzzword.
Absolutely. And what you were saying, Johnny, with that group, win, lose, or draw, that's a special bond that you always have together. Like a lot of our good, bad, or indifferent calls, when you have something special like that, sometimes they're not a great outcome, but you're always going to remember that team that you were with. Johnny and I just had a tragic event recently, and I'll never forget that's who I was working with that day. And that's the way life goes. And you get older and wiser, and you take those gems and hopefully pass it on and make yourself and others better.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Well, David, for you, I can't focus all the attention on Johnny.
As much as he wants to, David.
Oh, the gods will tell you, between me and Sagely, we get joked about all the time.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they're both prime time, but I will say my hat's off to you two, because that's the most Johnny said, the most he's exposed in
True.
as long as I know.
Wow.
I would say 90% of our guys at Air Operations, that's 90% of what he just said is new info for them. So Johnny is
it's the Johnny Gray connection,
Yeah.
Johnny connection that brought
John
it
and Jack
out.
have
I
to
can
bring it
feel
out.
Yeah, yeah.
Johnny's lived the life of 10 men, but he's a very humble guy. So
Yes.
my hat's off to you guys for extracting some info from him.
Cool. It's a great compliment.
No, that humble servitude is what we look for in good people through our community, and love to hear that. There's a lot of people that I'm sure that want to flaunt all the things that you've accomplished over the course of your life and career, Johnny, but you're humble about it. So really cool to hear that. But David, for you, looking over the course of your career and your life, can you talk about where you grew up, how you wound up in public safety and then ultimately in aviation?
Yeah, I grew up in Southern California, played sports like most of the folks that come into the business, and childhood dream of being a pro baseball player, and that augured in my junior year in high school. And as you live and you learn, you figure out what you want to do. I grew up in a fire service family. My dad was a firefighter. My grandfather, my uncle, my cousins, they were all San Antonio firefighters. My dad did 4 years with San Antonio, had a real tragic wall collapse on him and his partner, killed his partner. He was in the hospital for quite a while, made quite a long recovery, came back to the job, and then decided that he wanted to come out to LA County and work for LA County Fire. So he made that move without having a job, which was pretty impressive. But it was one of those things that kind of, if you're playing baseball, you want to play for the Yankees or whatever your favorite team is. And so he did that bold move, came out to California, went to college, ended up getting hired by LA County Fire. So I grew up around the fire service, a long traditional background of fire service stuff. Always enjoyed it as a kid, loved, what kid doesn't like the fire engine, or you could brag about your dad being a fireman. It's just cool. Kids dig it. And I always did. And I had the opportunity to visit my dad at work a lot, go right along. And as I got older, getting to be a part of the job. And once I realized that's what I wanted to do, I had that nice opportunity to go full bore, go right out on the fire engine. And along with that, we had other friends and family that I could do those experiences with. So that's kind of how my career blossomed. Jack, ironically, I always wanted to be a cop up until it came time to make a decision. So I wanted to catch bad guys and beat them up, put them in handcuffs, that kind of thing. And then when it came down to making good decisions, I opted to stand in the right line.
You got the correct line. Yes.
Yeah.
You did.
I know you've heard the joke 100 times.
Oh, yeah.
That's the route I went. I took a EMT class in high school. So as soon as I graduated, I started working as an EMT, went to college, taking my fire science and prepping A&P, paramedic route, fire service route, trying to do all the right things. I had a good outline from, being exposed to it. So initially I was going to go into the military and try and go that route because it was the odds of getting hired, the numbers were staggering at the time. I mean, you're a half of 1% getting on the job. Everybody wanted to be a fireman. So my theory at the time was if I went into the military, I could get 10 extra credit points when you take the test. And that's huge. I mean, that's getting you a job or not getting you a job, especially when you got tens of thousands of people taking the exam. And had a long conversation with myself, and I figured, 4 years of my life, I could go full bore college, take every test I could, get some experience as an EMT. And I figured I could get myself hired within that 4 years, which is ultimately what happened. And I ended up getting hired by City of Carlsbad down in San Diego County. And from there, I worked there for about 6.5 years. I put myself through an academy a couple of years in prior to getting hired by them. And I got hired young. I was very fortunate. There's good and bad with everything. And I was very fortunate to get hired young. I was in the best shape of my life. A lot of the instructors at that academy that I put myself through worked for that department. So they, I was doing all the right things, saying all the right things. So when I went to take that test, I'm looking around saying, man, what are the odds of me getting hired? It's slim to none. And ultimately it worked out, and it was great. It's a small department, good and bad with everything. It was like a family that, the LA County is certainly the brotherhood and the family, but small department, it's a real tight knit, everybody's family. I mean, there's, I think 67 guys on the floor at the time. And it was, it's everybody's kids' names and their wives' names and et cetera, et cetera. And anyhow, I was there for 6.5 years and had the opportunity to test for LA County and ultimately got hired there. And it's been a fun, wild ride ever since. So no regrets.
For those that don't know, I mean, my son came to me years ago. He wanted to be a cop his whole life. And then he was in the Army, and then he got out, and he came to me and said, if you don't, I don't want you to disown me, but I think I want to go the fire route. So and I said, you're a genius, run with it. But for those that don't know, because he took the test for LA County Fire, it's given to thousands of written tests, given to thousands of people. What David's talking about when you're saying, wow, do I have a chance here? You're taking a test at the LA County Fairgrounds, for instance, among 6,000-7,000 people at the same time, correct?
Yeah. Yep. I was sitting in a room at Pomona Fairgrounds.
Yeah. And
it's a funny story how I got up there, but there was a group of us for Carlsbad Fire Department that wanted to go take LA County's test, right? It's the Yankees. It's a little far to commute to New York. So let's take LA County's test. And we had just had an incident like a week before. We had I think 400 plus pound guy went into cardiac arrest right in front of us. We're working the guy, bringing him down the stairs, and I tweaked my back and I was laid up. I literally could barely walk. And the test is one day. It's at the time they were testing they're supposed to test every couple of years, but I think it had been 8 years since they had tested. So I needed to make that test. So lo and behold, like I said, I could barely walk. Well, my buddies from Carlsbad ended up loading me into the back of this guy's pickup truck. We drove all the way up to the Pomona Fairgrounds, and they helped me walk to the seat to take the test. And in the bed of this truck on the freeway, it was a long time ago, but that's how I took my test for LA County Fire. And
wow.
I had taken a class to take tests, and Don McNeat Fire School, God rest his soul, I aced that thing. And but I was looking around, and there were tens of thousands of people there. I'm going, there's no way I'm getting a job. But then again, you have that conversation with yourself. They got to give it to somebody. It might as well be me. So, it worked out. And like I said, it's been fast forward ever since, and every day has been a blessing and a lot of fun.
That mindset reminds me of Randy Rawls.
Oh yeah,
it
does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a great outlook and a great way to view things. I was in the fire service at a high school and at a college, worked for the U.S. Forest Service. And like you guys, I was testing for agencies, and LA County was the premier agency that folks wanted to go work for. And I'll never forget seeing LA County rig roll by. You got the wooden ladders. That's the one thing that LA County, big on tradition, right? You still have wooden ladders, and you guys maintain those. And that I always thought was really cool, but I was always intimidated to test because of what you guys are describing. It's such a difficult agency to get hired by. But kudos to you guys for, having the fortitude to go through the test and ultimately get hired. I mean, that speaks volumes about you guys.
It's a really big deal.
What's really striking to me about both of you is the mentorship that you guys experienced as children as a result of your fathers, right? The role that they had in leading you guys in kind of showing you the path in different ways, but in very similar ways, So it's really cool. I think it speaks to the power of mentorship. And we'll get into that because I know you guys are both big in the mentorship world. You guys are doing great things to continue to mentor folks that are rising through the ranks or wanting to get there to figure that out. But let's jump ahead a little bit. Again, I think most people have an idea of what LA County Fire Aviation does. But can you guys talk to us about the roles and responsibilities of a crew chief? What does your day-to-day mission set look like, and what responsibilities do you hold in the back of that aircraft? Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 160 plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
I'll let my big bro handle that one first.
Well, our roles and responsibilities. So we're sitting up front. We're a single pilot agency. So we're sitting up front, I would say, generally speaking, 90% of the time, assisting as a default co-pilot, radios, navigation, talking to the folks on the ground, incident commanders, depending on what we're rolling into. So I would say half of our business is EMS. So we're flying out, coordinating, setting up a nav for the pilot, getting to where we're getting, and we're coordinating with ground resources on, what we have, where we're going, landing zones, et cetera. All obviously a multi-mission show that we're running. So we're doing a lot of brush fires, search and rescue, hoist rescues, et cetera, blue water, horse, you name it, kind of like being in the fire service in general. We're just whatever you're given, you're solving that problem. So as a crew chief, we're getting in the back of the helicopter, obviously, for a hoist operation. And then when we have a critical patient, we fly a lot of critical folks from whether they're traumas or need to go to specialized hospitals, a lot of pediatric calls, remote area traumas, or just remote area rescues. What else, Johnny, for related to crew chief stuff?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what we do. I mean, during the hoist rescues, we are the pilot's eyes on the right side. He's obviously focusing in on a point or an area so he can hover properly. So our job is to make sure that, number one, we are safe. Obviously, that's the number one priority, safety. But the pilot has to maintain that hover at the most unopportune, curve possible. We call it the dead man's curve. He is no airspeed. More than likely, he is focusing in on a finite mark or tree or point, and he's holding a steady hover while the rotor blades are, feet away from some type of mountain or some type of, hazard. So it's our job on the right side with the door open to make sure that we maintain his height and his drift up, down, left, right, and make sure that we put our partner down safely to go ahead and effect that rescue. The crew chief job it starts before we even leave the station. We have to get the ticket. We have to make sure that the comm plan is entered into the radios properly. We have to make sure that we know where we're going. And then we have to make sure that we talk to the ground units appropriately, whether that's a fire or a hoist or swift water, blue water, horse, whatever it may be. We are the communication or the conduit between the ground and the air. So we love the responsibility. We do train often and a lot to prepare ourselves for that. So we are definitely a product of our habits for sure. And the job that we have, it's great because every single person on that aircraft has a role: the pilot, the crew member, the crew chief. And, if you roll up on the fire engine or a squad, you might be half asleep. Let's be honest, 2 a.m, your partner, all right, hey, Johnny, we're here. Oh, hey, Dave, don't forget to take that D-stick. And then, or you have the EMT, folks putting on the patches for you, or you have your partner, reminding you of certain things. Here in aviation, there's no one back there to help the crew chief put your partner down. There's no one helping the pilot do what he does in the front. And there's no one down below the crew member with the patient or down doing what he does. So we all have to trust each other in our roles to safely and effectively, affect that rescue. So I'm hoping that Dave does the correct thing down below, and he's hoping that I do the correct thing up top, and I'm hoping that the pilot's doing the right thing in front.
But we're not hoping, we're knowing.
We're knowing.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, we are knowing. So that magical connection and that CRM is crucial. And we are just 1/3 of that operation.
You said something that I love, that product your habits. It speaks to the importance of training and the things that we do when we're not on a mission. Of course, the stuff in an actual mission is important, but I think what you're going to produce during a mission is the result of the things you've done prior to that, right? What's interesting is what you're describing, that role is very similar. It's the cornerstone of what you're doing is the ability to communicate, whether it's internally with the crew that's on board or to the folks on the ground. When you look at law enforcement aviation, the tactical flight officers in a very similar situation. Their ability to communicate to the folks on the ground and the crew that's on board, the pilot or whoever else that's on board, is the most important part of that job. You cannot operate effectively or efficiently unless you can communicate with those folks. And I think that's the hardest thing that we find, the hardest skill to master and to recruit for is those people that can communicate well.
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, most of the stuff, the tragedies that happen, we do study stuff during classes and incidents that happen. A lot of it is communication failures. So what you're saying, John, is spot on.
How do you guys, one, recruit for that? And then two, how do you guys train to that in within your program?
There's not a whole lot of recruiting unfortunately. I mean, you can't pick your all-star team, but I'd like to say that we do have all-stars, but yeah, there is no recruiting. It's a very thin margin on how you get in there. You either get in there by seniority, which is 30 years plus if a guy retires, or what we call as a mutual, which is basically trading. So John, if you're a seasoned vet air ops guy with 30 years on, you're getting ready to retire and you like me a lot for whatever reason, hey, you want to trade spots, so you'd come to my firehouse and I'd go up to air ops. That's another way to get in there.
So you're being vetted by somebody, just not like the process that people are used to. You're being vetted more by the folks that are currently holding those positions.
Kind of, though, Dave, because to be honest, we also have a bid system in county. So you can have, John Doe or Jane Doe working a station, who knows where, that you haven't seen in 25 years, and he or she's about to retire, and they have the numbers to bid. So if we have a vacancy and their seniority numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it may be, they can bid the spot and the spot is theirs. Now it's up to us at Air Ops to train that person so that way they can do the job proficiently and safely. But we aren't like Cal Fire where you kind of go through the ranks and you kind of come back to the helitack crew and, the guys know you from when you first got on and you kind of go that path. We do have folks that did previously work for CAL FIRE or the Forest Service or other agencies in aviation that will love to get back to air ops for county, but it takes, like Dave said, two things: longevity on the job, and that means being a firefighter paramedic. That means you have to be a firefighter paramedic for 20 plus years to even sniff the position, or get a mutual, like Dave said, or like I did, a preferential, which is every blue moon. That very rarely happens. If I didn't get that preferential, yeah, I mean, that's not going to happen. So it's very hard to vet that kind of stuff.
So let's say you've got the folks that come through the door, right? They've been selected. However they get there. How do you take that person who's probably not had, if any aviation experience, very little? How do you get them up to speed? Okay.
I'm that guy. I'm that guy that had no fire service experience or aviation experience. All that we owe to others, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And to be honest, he's probably going to kill me for saying his name, but I don't care. We call him the sensei or dad or the guru, but Mike Nelson was the guy that trained me. He trained my qualified relief class. So if you get selected to get into air operations, we have a class that lasts for 4 weeks. It is a 8 student class, and we go through everything that it takes to become a crew member. And you have to pass certain blocks and midterms and finals on the ground, on our training tower, and in live flight, day and night, in order to be successful to become a qualified relief individual that can go up there and work trades or overtimes, or a person that has that position as your spot. So we have a great training cadre, and Michael Nelson is probably, in my opinion, one of the best teachers that I've ever had in the fire service. So, we try to take that baton from him and that torch and try to emulate what he did to keep that bar high and train others to the level that Mike Nelson trained us. And that's what we do to get them ready for this position. And then when you pass, now it's on the job training, because you can't teach them everything, right? But they are safe, and we will be comfortable with them to do at least a shift. And then now we will hone in on those individual things that may be hard to teach a group.
That career path that Johnny's talking about, so they give this class once a year, and it's basically a little mini academy that lasts for 3 or 4 weeks. And we call it our QR training, our qualified relief, which is the route that I went. So I was a firefighter out in the field for 20 years. And it takes about at least 10 years, maybe 12, before you get the seniority numbers to even be able to apply to get into this class. So with those numbers, with those seniority numbers, and that allows you to become a seasoned paramedic, learn your job prior to, so you can apply to get into this qualified relief class. So the students that are selected for that are any air operations captains that are assigned to air ops that haven't had the training, which we just had 2 out of our 8 that were in that class. And then anybody that also received a bid to that spot. So if you have a 30-year guy that got a bid to air ops, okay, so he ties up a spot. So now you have 5 extra spots. Now that gets advertised to the entire fire department. You may have dozens of people applying, firefighter paramedics, to get that training. Well, they're going to take the 5 with the seniority that also have a handful of other qualifications, ACLS, PALS, PHTLS, a bunch of medical classes, some online aviation classes, in order to apply, which is the route I went. I had, I think, 10 or 12 years on the job, and I was able to become a qualified relief member, which I did for about 10 years prior to getting my full-time spot at Air Ops, which is awesome. So you can go out, work in the field. You're working on a tiller truck, a fire engine, a paramedic squad, and you get a call, hey, do you want a spot at Air Ops on Thursday? Well, heck yeah, I want a spot at Air Ops on Thursday. That's the beauty of the county. I mean, you could be cutting a hole in a commercial building structure fire, and then at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're flying over Malibu or making a mountain rescue. It's incredible. I mean, it truly is. So that's kind of the QR class / training just to get in.
How long would you say it takes for the average crew chief to come into the position and feel comfortable on any missions? That is it years? What does that look like?
I think that's an individual thing. I feel, I mean, you get a hoist rescue, boom, let's go. That's what you go to bed dreaming about. Hey, we got a vehicle over the side at 3 a.m. You're on goggles and let's do it. You know, I love it. Johnny loves it. Your comfort zone, clearly repetitions, the more reps you get, the better you're going to be. But I think kind of like being a firefighter or a paramedic, you never want to get too comfortable, and you're always learning. You're always getting pearls from other guys or your experiences. But I mean, day one, you better be ready to go, because you're literally making life and death decisions, and your options, your choices, your communications, your lingo, your judgment. I mean, you don't have that grace, like Johnny was saying, on, be asleep at 2 a.m, going to a call. That just doesn't happen at air ops. So, the consequences are drastic for when stuff goes south. It goes south in a hurry, and the consequences are brutal. Unlike, you can have an accident on the fire engine, or you could step off and fall down. And, we've all been through those, learning roles as part of becoming a seasoned firefighter, paramedic, anything in life, police officer. But there's just, you don't have that, I don't know what the term would be, like, basically if you fuck up, you're going to pay for it immediately, and with drastic consequences. So you need to be ready day one. And our department's great. I mean, our training's incredible. For crew chief training, you got to be there a minimum of a year. And then you start a process with a preceptor that's going to hold your hand through everything. And there's a huge sheet of everything you got to learn. And we go through it one by one, and other crew chiefs are coming together teaching. It's a great program, and it's not a set amount of time. It's anywhere from 6 months to a year based on the individual. And you do it all 100 times over until you're extremely proficient in everything that we do. So once you do finally pass your check rides night and day, you're good to go, and everybody's comfortable with you being a crew chief, as they should be.
You brought up reps being the most important part of proficiency, and I agree with that. I think the more reps you can get, the better you become, the faster you get to that proficiency level. That's the beauty of LA County. You've such a diverse county, such a big county, and you operate in the mountains, in the deserts, the ocean environment, all these different environments. Can you talk about how that kind of lends to your guys' ability to generate those high level of reps in a relatively short amount of time?
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
I think we're very blessed to be in a department that gives us grace with our training. The fact that we can take a Black Hawk and go out and get those reps is very crucial to our success. So that's the number one thing, is that the department allows us to do that. Secondly, I feel like each individual in our section, they all want to be great. They all want to be good, especially in today's time, because every time that bell goes off, whether you're on a fire engine or a helicopter or a police squad, the cameras are on you. And it goes back to our previous conversation, especially air ops. So that goes back to our earlier conversation about failure. No one wants to be that guy that's on channel, 2, 4, 5, 7, 11, effing up. So training is crucial, because we represent more than just, Johnny Gray. I represent my pilot, my crew member during that day, and our section, as well as that bear on our badge and that patch on our arm. So we represent everyone when we're out there. So the department allows us to go to Mount Baldy to get that altitude training because, again, for the pilot, it's different going up in the 412 versus a Hawk in the altitude. You know, it's crucial for us to go see what the swift water looks like during the rains, to see how fast that water's moving, you know, to go to the DWP and get that swift water training, you know, during the off season, as well as going to the desert and working with guys out there, you know, during the 30, 40 knot winds that happens all the time in the desert, to get those reps. And mind you, what we do during the day, we have to do at night. So everything we do is twofold, because again, you can be up in Mount Baldy during the daytime, you know, all chummy, you know, loving life, but then you get up there at night, it's like, was there a wire over there? Oh man, you know, now things get a little more tight, you know. So training is definitely crucial to our success, and we owe it to not only ourselves but the civilians of LA County. We owe it to them. We aren't just firefighters. We are professional firefighters. And that goes back, I relate everything to sports. Just like, you know, LeBron and Kobe and all of them they aren't just basketball players. They are professional basketball players. So with being a professional comes an expectation. And we have to hone in and embrace that expectation and go out and perform. We are performing when that bell goes off, but we're also saving the life at the same time. We're making that problem better. But we had to remind ourselves that we are professional firefighters that have a badge and we get paid to do this. So it's the expectation of the taxpayers that we know our job and do our job to the best of our ability.
Johnny, you were saying, you know, high profile today's day and age, there's cameras everywhere. There certainly are, but it's just like I always relate it to, you know, precept in a new paramedic. If you have a critical kid in the back of your ambulance that's going berserk and parents going nuts, you gotta cut all that stuff out and focus on your mission. So
that's right.
Yeah, we're not worried about, I mean, I've had numerous calls where I've looked up and there's a whole cliffside full of, you know, hundreds of police officers, firefighters, news helicopters, and you just got to tune that stuff out. Yeah. Nobody wants to make an ass out of themselves, but forget all that stuff. You're focused on your mission. Yeah. And we are high profile, and the cameras are way more on air operations just because it is air operations, but worldwide. I was recently traveling overseas, and I was one of the only English speakers around, and people, you want to talk to the American? Let's just start talking to everybody else speaks English, right? Multiple languages, but they find, where are you from? California. Oh, California. Everybody want to talk about the fires. Did you see the fires in California? Well,
I felt them.
But I mean, seriously, like Hollywood has such a huge influence worldwide. The United States has a huge influence worldwide, but Los Angeles specifically, and then specifically air operations, everybody I talked to was watching LA County Fire put out fire on the other side of the world. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So whether it's a blessing or a curse, it is what it is.
It's both.
Right.
It's both. I've got a question about the crew makeup before we move away from this, because John's got a long list of other things that we want to get to. But you both mentioned, okay, you're firefighters, you're paramedics, you're crew chiefs, you're the one working the hoist. But there's a third person on that crew. You're up front, and there's somebody else in the back. What is their status? Is it another crew chief? Are they a paramedic but not a crew chief yet? How does that work with the makeup? And how often is it a 3-person crew? Is it for every mission or only certain types? How does that work?
We fly a 3-person crew every day, 24/7. We fly 3 helicopters that meet in one place, and then those 3 helicopters deploy out. One deploys north to the high desert, one deploys to our east county, and one to our west county. And it's always a pilot, a crew chief, and a firefighter paramedic. And that's going to be your rescue specialist. He's a paramedic in the back until or he always is, unless it's a critical patient. And then one of us crew chiefs would get in the back with him to assist the patient care. But that's typically our crew. Sometimes we'll have a captain from Air Ops ride along with us as a 4th crew member. That's very rare, but occasionally we do, or we'll have a a qualified relief person, but very rare do we have a fourth guy. I would say 99% of the time it's a 3-person crew.
And that paramedic in the back, they are also specially trained, not to the point where they reach crew chief, but they are not your average paramedic. I mean, they obviously have to have, I mean, they're the one that you're hoisting down.
Yep.
They're the one that's looking out the window and calling obstacles and hazards. What kind of training do they get that's not quite to the level of where you guys are at?
It's like Johnny was saying before, they get that 3 to 4 week class.
Okay.
I believe it's up to 4 now, but it's very thorough, and it's everything we do off of our training tower in the classroom. And then you go to live hoist, which is our bread and butter, the most dangerous thing that we do. But yes, that's the training that they have. And then on top of that, it's just daily training. So if we're doing a deployment flight to the desert or out to the East County, all you got to say, one guy, hey, let's go do some training. Let's go do some confined space, or let's go do some hoist, whatever the case is. We have that luxury.
Yeah.
90% of the time, not always, but
gotcha.
Yeah, that's our crew. And that's what those guys are doing. Johnny was a crew chief before me, and him and I, when I was a crew member, we had some very unique calls. I'm the guy with the ship magnet with the sign around your neck. So some people love working with me. Some people hate it. Everybody's
him and Shane Manners, Manners, Dave Baumann, and Keith Smith. Those three, man. But also, Jack, we also can work with crew chiefs too. So Dave and I have worked together. We're both crew chiefs.
Gotcha.
There's multiple times where you can definitely be with another crew chief, which is great because you get to see how they do things and pick up from them, because we all learn from one another.
Cool. Yeah. We have a pretty small pool. We only have 9 crew chiefs. There's 18 positions total. So we currently have 9 crew chiefs trained, 3 per ship. So it's not that often that you get to work with another crew chief, just because. And then we also have that qualified relief pool of about 25 to 30 qualified firefighter paramedics. So if we can't fill our own vacancies due to injury, vacation, training, they'll go out to this group of qualified relief folks, but we don't have that luxury as a crew chief. So
gotcha.
Oftentimes, hey, Johnny, I know you're not planning on working Saturday, but you're working.
Yeah. Guess what?
Yeah.
Well, I've got about 7 pages worth of questions to ask you guys. We made it halfway through 1 page.
barely halfway through the 1 page.
Sorry.
By the way, Johnny and Dave, just so you know, this is a record that has been set for this outline. And I went, wow, what is John doing? He is, deep down, John Gray is a firefighter.
Okay.
Just so we're clear.
Set the clock. 20 seconds per answer, Johnny.
Yep. Sorry.
No, and honestly, we don't have to get through all the questions, because the stuff that we're going through is really impactful.
It is.
It's all the things that I'm naturally curious about, and I know all the listeners on our side are curious about. But you talk about the paramedic side and all the things that you experienced and learned in the field prior to going to aviation. Something I'm interested to talk about is impactful or memorable incidents that you guys were involved in, whether it was in aviation or not. But I think before aviation, if possible, Johnny, I know you were part of a full arrest incident involving a teenage kid. What's cool about what you guys do a lot of the times that law enforcement doesn't get to experience very often is the positive side of the work.
Yeah.
You guys, you get to experience some really cool interactions with patients that recover and stuff like that. So for you, Johnny, can you talk about the experience that you had mentioned and walk us through that?
Yeah. So that wasn't prior to aviation. That was actually on the helicopter. We went to this point. I forget what mountain it was, but it was pretty high up there. And it was a father-son doing a hike. The father actually was a sheriff, and he was doing CPR when we landed. My partner and I, actually it was myself, because I was the crew member that day with another crew chief. So he put me down. Dad was in the process of doing CPR. So we just continued with those life-saving, tactics, end up getting him back. Then we end up hoisting him out, took him to the hospital, end up making it. Then the father actually came back and found where we were working in Pomona. and literally cried to us, hugging us, thanking us for bringing his son back. So that was one of the times where you do the work, it's a great outcome, but then after the fact, you get to see the son, give him a hug, see the dad, have him cry on your shoulder, and just get reminded that the things that we do is very special and very humbling. Because, we didn't create the problem. We're there just to help them out. And that was one of the times that my partner, Jeff Budabar, and I, we actually did some good. And the outcome, we saw it because he walked up the stairs, gave us a big hug. Dad's crying. He was blue. I thought I lost my son. And all we can do is just hug him back and say, you're welcome. And we were just doing our job.
Doesn't get any better than that. And you could go through a whole career. And if you had one of those, it made it all worth it.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, you put yourself in the shoes of that father, and your son's dying in front of you, and here comes LA County Fire and helicopter, and Johnny Gray comes down and saves your boy. Like, I don't think as a father there's any debt that could ever be repaid, any thank you that could ever, fulfill what you've done for that family. That's really cool.
No, John, you're absolutely right. And then on the flip side, prior to aviation, I had my second daughter. She was 3 years old, and we go on a call on the squad, a SIDS patient who's 3. So here I am, a father of 2. My brand first daughter ever is 3 years old, and here I am crying. Like that could be my daughter, and here I am. I can't help mom though. Like that's the other side of it. Sometimes you won't be able to help. All you can do is just hug her, hold her at the hospital, and do everything that you possibly can. So those are things that we all see in our profession. But like Dave said, those saves are the ones that make it worth your while.
Yeah,
no doubt.
I think it's important to bring that up. I feel like the most difficult incidents to process are the ones that you most identify with. Like in your situation, your 3-year-old little girl looks just like yours, same size, everything, and it hurts. And the mental health side of our profession, I think it's important to focus on that and realize, hey, this is I'm in a bad spot, because of this. So I love that you brought that up. It's something we try and talk about at every opportunity. I feel like the more we could talk about mental health, the more the stigma starts to go away, and the better that we leave this profession. Because we want to leave this profession enjoying our pensions that we've worked for to earn. We don't want to be burdened by severe mental health issues. So thanks for bringing that up and chatting about that a bit. Jack, any questions to follow up on before we switch gears here with David?
I just think it's just amazing when you have a success story where they come back to search you out. Not all of them do that. We've talked to other guests about this where they've had hundreds and hundreds of success stories, and every now and then somebody comes to the hangar and says, "Excuse me, is the crew here that," and they find you. That is just amazing. Yep. I mean, you got to hand it to the people that do that too. They probably don't realize how impactful that is for not just you as firefighters and paramedics, but for your fellow firefighters and paramedics to watch it and go, wow, that is what it's all about.
Yep.
And you don't get recognized for that every time. Nobody does, but the ones that do, that's something you'll take, to your death. I mean, where you'll just remember that moment. No doubt. It's a special thing. And I've never experienced that. I mean, that is, but I can imagine the emotion. What's that?
Because you're a cop.
That's right. I have had people show up at the station and want to kill me, but none that want to thank me for taking their son to Pelican Bay. I don't understand why they have a problem with that. But the emotion must be just where you can't even explain it. That's really cool story.
It's really neat, and it's so rare, like you said. And there's a lot of outcomes that we just never know, and
yes,
probably a lot of them that we don't want to know.
I agree.
There's a little sidetrack. Johnny and I, the last time we worked together, we had a critical trauma that we flew to the hospital. This guy's in bad shape. He's, probably not going to make it. Just vitals are terrible, multi-systems trauma, real bad shape. So dropped him off, and while during we were there cleaning up and stuff, he had gone into full arrest, and we ended up leaving. But there's just, we've seen it hundreds of times in our career, and it's just the sad side effects of our job. I mean, there's a lot more good that comes out of it. But as we were flying back, we get contacted by the sheriff's department on one of air-to-air channels, and the pilot had reached out to our pilot, said, "Hey, I want to talk to one of your paramedics, blah, blah, blah. My paramedics are listening. We have our deputy's family on board. We understand that you just transported one of our deputies." And we're like, oh, shit. Not that it mattered. I mean, our treatment's the same, but that hits home, man. It's one of our brothers. Yes. And we didn't know he was a deputy. And, it was a young man that his life ended early, and he had his whole life ahead of him. And those are sad. And but if you let that stuff get to you, you got to figure it out. You'd be a basket case, and you'd never be able to finish out your own life. But
on that topic, Dave, do they? I've never asked anybody this. I've thought this a million times, and now I have the opportunity. I've got two very experienced firefighter paramedics. Do they teach you or talk about that early on, especially the paramedic side, about just let it go, where you transport, do everything you can, be as professional, as skilled as possible, do everything you can, but don't be calling the hospital an hour later and saying, hey, do they talk about that for your own mental wellness, or is that something that's just a given? Or talk about that.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 160-plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
Thank you to our sponsor, CNC Technologies. CNC Technologies, serving law enforcement, government, and military markets with tailored mission solutions, system training, and live 24/7 support with CNC.live platform. Explore more at cnctechnologies.com.
Thank you for tuning into this inspiring series of the Hangar Z Podcast. We hope Johnny Gray III and David Bauman's stories and insights into teamwork, leadership, and resilience resonated with you. Their dedication and spirit exemplify the true meaning of service and emergency response. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please take a moment to leave us a review, like, and subscribe to the podcast. Your support helps us continue sharing valuable stories. We'd also love to hear your suggestions. If you have any guests or topics you'd like to see featured, please visit the contact tab at verticalhelicast.com and let us know.